People are asking, when are we going to talk about Mordor? Good question.
The answer is right now. Get excited because Shadow of Mordor is happening live in the studio, people. And I know so many people have been waiting for this. Welcome, guys. Welcome, welcome. Let me do some introductions here, and I am going to read off my sheet so I don't mess anything up. I don't trust my brain the last hour and a half of this broadcast. So,
she's been here since 4 a.m.
Michael DePlatter. Michael DePlatter, people, Director of Design at WB Games. Thank you so much for being here. And the man who's going to be walking us through this awesome gameplay we're about to see is Kevin Steffens, studio head at Monolith. Did I say it right?
Ryan.
Stevens?
This is Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. See? I knew I was going to say it wrong.
Ryan, is it Ladine?
Yep.
Awesome.
Who is Kevin Steffens?
Kevin
he's a
wraith.
He's with us.
He's floating behind us.
Was he around here at one
He's
point?
one of the Nazgul.
He's inhabiting me.
He'll become
like Celebrimbor.
He'll be back.
Yes.
But look, I'm.
I was even reading off of a sheet.
I know.
I thought you were just gonna say no. It's Stevens. I'm so sorry, Ryan. Thank you for being here, and you have awesome hair. Okay.
Regardless, I'm excited for this because first and foremost, this is not your mother's Lord of the Rings game. This is a dark Middle Earth. I mean, we're getting kind of a new view.
Yeah, I don't know what my mother's Lord of the Rings game would look like.
Probably like a
Not like
a
this. I
nice
think
a
that's
nice
true.
very pastel
You
hobbit.
didn't meet my mother.
Right.
Nope. It would be a lot darker than this. But yeah, I mean, it's what we want to be. Well, I mean, we are very authentic to Tolkien, and we've gone to a lot of sort of effort to do that. But it's definitely not a game of hobbits and the Shire, and you know, we are sort of more towards, I guess, the epic side of the story, and the likes of Aragorn and Boromir and.
Tell us where in Middle Earth we are in the storyline of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
So our game, it takes place immediately after the end of The Hobbit, after the end of the Battle of Five Armies. Sauron has just been defeated, and he's been driven out of Mirkwood, of Dol Guldur, and he's just returned to Mordor after millennia since he was defeated. And that's exactly where our story starts. So it's like 80 years before Lord of the Rings, just as Sauron's forces are starting to build up for the War of the Ring.
And there's so much to talk about. I'm just going to kick things off by saying right away, we're getting exclusive looks here at Game 24, because this is the first time we're going to see PC gameplay for Shadow of Mordor, right?
Yep.
So this is the first time we're seeing footage for PC gaming, and you're also going to be revealing a new mode that we haven't seen called Challenge Mode. That's what we're playing in today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're really excited. So, as you said, because it's the PC version that we've put a lot of love into, but also because our challenge mode, I guess like the name says, it's really, even if you've finished the game and beaten the story, there's many, like endless hours of gameplay after that, of playing through the challenge mode and showing how that works with our Nemesis system, which is our main innovation.
And we can talk more about Nemesis system and things like that as we get into it. But if do you want to go ahead and start, Ryan? Kevin? I'm just kidding. Ryan, do you want to start and show us what we're looking at? And Blair is full of questions.
Right.
She's like, Kristen, I'm going to nerd out on this segment. I got lots of questions.
Well,
so
I do, because one of the things that I was excited about is that it's got a similar combat system to the Batman Arkham City games and Arkham Asylum games. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I mean, I guess once we get into this,
Absolutely.
we'll see a whole bunch of combat. So just, I guess, as a quick intro to the challenge mode, and then Ryan can get started while keep talking, because it's going to be a definite challenge for him to get through this in the half an hour. So the goal here, there's leaderboards for these, there's rune rewards, there's different rewards, and if he can manage to kill 5 of these war chiefs, which are the bosses within this area in the time, he's going to get gold, he's going to get the trophy, and that's also going to earn other rewards that feed back in and get on the leaderboard. So Ryan probably is, actually almost certainly is the best Shadow of Mordor player in the world at the moment. So he's going to go straight in. And the thing with this is it's going to be quite a bit harder than any demos we've shown before, because the level of the enemies is going to be higher than anything we've shown before. So we're going to see a lot of pretty intense combat. So we'll kick it off. Let's go, and then we can. So the first thing, this is all about, he's going to be getting scored for speed, for experience, for maximizing the amount of experience he gets as he goes through, and also for not dying. Oh, the other thing we've actually done, this is one of the skins we have as well. So this is the Dark Ranger skin. We can see.
And tell us about our character, because this is an original character, obviously voiced by, you may or may not have heard of him, Troy Baker.
Just popular.
Yeah, just a bit.
He's had a good run lately, so I was going to say between Last of Us and Bioshock Infinite.
Yeah, so we thought he needed a bit of a boost.
So tell us about our new character.
So the thing with the character here is we actually have two main characters that are sort of inhabiting the same body, because Talion is a ranger of Gondor. He's an original character that was created by us within our story, but he was one of the rangers guarding the Black Gates when Sauron returned. So he's killed at the start of our game, but then he's brought back and resurrected by the other half of our main character, who's an elven wraith called Celebrimbor. And Celebrimbor was one of the most powerful, most important characters in the whole history of Middle-earth, because he's the elven king that worked together with Sauron to forge the Rings of Power. So for hundreds of years he was working alongside, the necromancer, and forged the Rings of Power that we see that the Nazgul have, that turns them into the ring wraiths. So you're really combining all of these skills and combat abilities of this ranger, and all of the power of this elf of the Second Age, this really epic spirit as well. And then the two of them can combine both of those to basically go behind enemy lines in Mordor and take down Sauron's army from within. Oh yeah, so you were mentioning the combat before, of course. So here, we're obviously taking on a pretty large sort of squad force of enemies, made up of a whole bunch of different types of units. There's defenders with the shields there, as well as the basic infantry. Ooh. But the key, nice, like Arkham, is getting your hit counter up. Once the hit counter is up, that unlocks a whole bunch of different chords and special moves you can do to execute your enemies, to perform AoEs like that, to decapitate them, or to bend them to your will. So to use the power of Celebrimbor and the Wraith to actually turn your enemies onto your side and have them fight for you.
And it's great because I notice you're countering and you're chaining stuff together, and also I love the flipping over the guys, the dodge.
Yeah, so the dodge, so mobility and sort of your spatial positioning is very, very important, because the battlefields are very fluid and very chaotic. So not only do we have pretty large numbers of enemies, like dozens of enemies on screen at once, but then on top of that you can have beasts and monsters.
Yeah, exactly.
That was so sweet. Sorry.
That's really handy against the defenders, the guys with the shield. Oh, and we can see actually even turning up at this battle, this is not an ordinary soldier.
Now,
this
how do you
guy,
say his name?
Kaka.
Oh, Kaka the Angry. Okay, just making sure. I was like, what
He's angry.
He's got a lot to be angry about. And so these guys, the Nemesis enemies, they then bring into the fight a whole bunch of different skills and tactics and upgrades. Okay.
So is he taking on power from them as they die?
So there's two things. Yeah, so you can use the Wraith ability to dominate or get energy from your enemies. And then all of our bosses and sub-bosses, they're all procedurally created. So they're going to be different every time you play. And when you kill one of those guys, they drop a rune. So that floating sort of icon, that sword that's there on the battlefield. And those runes can be used to kind of, to note your achievements and note your victories on your sword or your dagger and your bow. So they're the way that you customize and upgrade all of your stats. Oh, that was a Wraith arrow there. See the guys engulfed in flames as well. It's another sort of skill Celebrimbor has as an elf. He's very kick-ass with a bow. But in this case, that actually didn't turn out so well, because it's actually just enraged this guy. So we can see where he's glowing red. He's going to restore his health and get even more dangerous.
So what is, in terms of challenge mode, what are some other things that you can tell us in terms of the gameplay that we're going to be experiencing?
So the focus, we can see the goals up on the top left. It's 5 war chiefs. So far we've got 1 out of 20 captains.
Okay.
The goal of this is really to present a very, very difficult challenge. So it's really, if you've beaten the game. I was going to say,
you're a one-man army at this point. That's amazing.
Does it say die no more than one time?
Yes, exactly. If you want gold, you've got to get through this within this time,
Is that a
destroy this entire hierarchy, maximize your score, and not die once, which even that in itself is a pretty phenomenal challenge.
Yes. Well, I have to say, I'm amazed that one of the criteria is to finish within 50 minutes, because usually with challenges they're relatively concise. So this is like a pretty epic extension of the gameplay.
Yeah, this is, we sort of forget this, I guess, because we're playing it all the time, and we've played it for hundreds, if not thousands of hours. But this is very, very different to maybe, you know, what's been released before in terms of a challenge room or a single fight or something like that. This really is kind of an epic goal of actually trying to take down this entire sort of hierarchy of these enemies within Mordor. And then not only that, but every single time you play this, it'll play out differently as well, because those enemies you're facing are going to be different.
Sure.
Now, I was just looking, when we go back to the gameplay, was he actually able to possess one of the soldiers, the enemy soldiers? Was that like an actual...
Yep.
That's great.
So in the same way, you know, Lord of the Rings of Power, Sauron, it's very much about domination, bending, sort of armies to your will, sort of controlling people through fear, and that's very much the power you have over Sauron's forces as well. So because of Celebrimbor's powers, you can actually create your own army of these Uruk super soldiers. So this is many, many years before Saruman tries to build up his army of Uruk-hai in order to challenge the Dark Lord, but we're actually doing that behind enemy lines in Mordor.
So if people are just joining into the live stream, what we're looking at is the first look at Shadow of Mordor on the PC, and we're in challenge mode, which is the first time you guys, WB Games is releasing this right now to see it. So first look right here, people. And
am I correct in that this is a new skin for the character as well?
Yeah, this is the Dark Ranger skin.
Okay, gotcha.
So this is one of the ones you can earn for the, it's pre-ordered, so day one, so playing, and another thing as well with that, there's some sort of unique perks on the sword. You can get your sword can be flaming when you get your hit counter up with this one as well.
Very cool. Now, aside from encountering obviously like the Uruk-hai or Rangers, like what other sort of elements from Lord of the Rings might we encounter in this game?
So there's obviously the beasts and the creatures and the whole sort of ecology of Mordor as well. So this massive monster here that
I love his way of travel right now. Like, I need that dude to navigate LA traffic. Yeah. That is amazing.
That would help immensely.
That would. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, not at all.
But that was a great move there.
In this one, it's really about speed, so the navigation across the world gets really important. The other elements really from Middle Earth, we have our entire story, of course. So this is, you know, the challenge mode. So this is really just one small part of the game as well. But our story and our story missions were written and directed by Christian Cantamessa. So he's the lead writer and director on Red Dead. So the story, you know, he did an amazing job of immersing himself in the lore and sort of having that authenticity to Middle Earth as well. And then, you know, there's thousands of years of history and there's so much detail and richness in this world that we wanted players to be able to explore and get into. So there's a lot of side quests, there's a lot of collectibles, there's a lot of exploration. For example, this cave here where we can see these Caragors, you know, they're going to contain, you know, a whole bunch of stuff that you can discover. So we wanted people who've never ever even read the books or seen the movies to be able to enjoy this as a standalone story on its own, or people who, you know, like some of us, are just mad fans and have read it dozens of times and are totally immersed in it, to be able to kind of even see or experience some sides of Middle Earth that they haven't seen before, like the backstory of Sauron in the Second Age, and like Celebrimbor. And so we very much wanted anyone to be able to enjoy it, no matter how much their level of immersion in it is.
You guys are in a really awesome position to do that, because it is, like, for fans that haven't read the books or seen the film, it's a new storyline. It's a you know, you don't have to know any backstory to enjoy it. But like for hardcore fans, it's great to explore this region of time between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
Yep, and that approach was very much inspired by The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So, you know, I think a lot of people, their first exposure to Middle Earth is the films, the Lord of the Rings films, and then they go back and experience The Hobbit as a prequel, or other people who've read The Hobbit first and then, you know, perceive Lord of the Rings as a sequel. But whatever your entry point is, they both work on their own as a story, and they both work even better in relation to each other. So we wanted to do the same thing. Even if this is your first entry point into Middle-earth, it's still a cool, epic, standalone story. But if you see it as a sequel to The Hobbit, it works. You find out what happened next with Gollum, what happened next with the Necromancer and Sauron, where that story's heading. Or if you see it as a prequel to Lord of the Rings, it's really fleshing out some of the backstory and depth and the origin of the Rings of Power.
So Blair, do you have more combat questions?
Oh, well, I mean, in general, sorry, I'm mesmerized because it looks great on the
There's a flaming
PC.
sword, sorry.
Oh, no, tell me, it's flaming sword for one. Like, you know, talk a little
Kristen,
bit about...
excuse me, be quiet, I'm watching a
No,
flaming
sorry,
sword.
I am like completely hypnotized
I
by
love
this.
it,
But the story, and this isn't so much about the combat system, but like the story of his journey is one of revenge, correct?
It's one that begins with revenge. And you know, we wanted to get people into this sandbox and into the world as quickly as possible. So, you know, you want to start the story and start the action with something that's immediately engaging and kind of kicks off this character with a very, very strong motivation to get into the action as quickly as possible. But then once we get into the world, once the story starts developing, and once he starts exploring more of the mystery of why am I not dead, who is this wraith, this spirit that's bound together with me, and also discovering more of what's going on in Mordor at this time, of the other people that have been trapped there and have been enslaved by Sauron's return. And so I think, you know, revenge is really the starting point, but then we sort of grow it and increase the stakes, and it becomes both more personal and more epic.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and this character is he completely new, or is he referenced in one of the other? I'm sorry, I was so like into this earlier.
Yeah, he already answered that in detail while you were looking at the flaming sword.
I'm sorry, I was really mesmerized by that image.
No, this is an original character.
Yep.
So you're not confined by anything that sort of Tolkien set down, but you kind of can do it within the parameters of the entire series.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's, we really did both. So Celebrimbor is very much drawn from the lore. Let's say he is the Elven King that worked together with Sauron and forged the Rings of Power. So he's very interesting in the sense that he's fundamental to the history of Middle-earth, but he's not really explored very much in The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings in the main stories. He is in the appendices, whereas Talion is someone who's new. So we've kind of got the best of both worlds in that sense.
Perfect. And I apologize, I am like super mesmerized also because I'm curious how many of these challenge maps, like what's the duration of these? Because if this one is like 50, these must be A, massive geographically, and B, like...
Well, they take advantage of you know, each of the zones within the game. So this particular zone, this is Udun, so this is just inside the Black Gates when you enter Mordor. Oh, nice. Wow. It is just so nice seeing it on PC as well.
Great
it's
job,
I know,
really
I
beautiful.
can't believe how beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice seeing the PC. It's cool. And then there's another sort of large zone, which is the Sea of Nirn, which is much deeper behind the sort of lines within Mordor as well. And then so when you play the challenge mode, this whole area is populated with a whole kind of hit list of these war chiefs and captains and stuff for you to hunt down. So, but as I say, literally every time you fire it up again, it's going to be a whole new group of these unique enemies.
Can you take a minute to talk more about the Nemesis system and how it works within the game?
Yes, I'm getting distracted as well.
That was an
Okay.
it's like every time I start to have a train of thought, I see someone decapitated spectacularly, and I'm just like, I've lost everything. This is amazing.
Dark Ranger stuff's fun too.
Yeah.
So the idea for the Nemesis system, obviously, I guess there were a couple of motivations there. One, we just really didn't, like, combat is very much a core part of the gameplay, and that's the melee combat and the stealth and the ranged. And it was really important that doesn't get boring or that doesn't get repetitive over the course of a 30-hour campaign.
Right.
You know, we wanted that to be really just continue to be fun the whole time. And so two things we tried to do with that. One is never make it feel like you're just fighting cannon fodder. So any enemy in the game can get promoted, can go all the way from just being any orc in the world, can get promoted, make his way into the hierarchy, become a captain, grow all the way up to becoming a war chief. And then, so at the same time, that means the boss fights and all of the sub-bosses are also going to be unique every time you play. And they've got a huge range of skills that's going to make sure that every fight plays out differently. So we really just wanted the combat to never ever get stale, and to be able to just, we've again just, after having played it for hundreds and hundreds of hours, it's still fun to play, and we still get to see new things every time we play it and we demo it and so on, which is pretty cool.
How many different finishing moves are there? I mean, is it?
There's
hundreds?
a ton. The thing is as well that's fun is not only are there. Oh, you're going to dominate him or kill him?
Get info first.
Intel first.
Ooh,
Excellent.
good
That's
move.
important.
Good
Nice.
move.
There's all the finishing moves from the player, from Talion, but then we have, because the infighting and forcing these orcs to turn on each other and to kill each other is so important, they all have, massive quantities of animation and so on as well, and all of their own finishing moves and attacks, whether it's body slams or decapitations or shanking, so it's huge amount of depth.
While Ryan is dominating some orcs over there, I want to take a minute to tell people when the game comes out, because they're asking. It's in 11 days, people. Shadow of Mordor is releasing in 11 days.
Wow.
Yeah, September 30th. So, how does it feel like hear that? In 11 days,
I know.
your game is coming out.
Yeah, it's we just can't wait. And I think is it this weekend there's a Steam sale? Yeah, so the PC as well. So, it's really getting close, and incredibly exciting just to wait till people can get their hands on it.
Yeah, and it's a treat for us, for you guys, to bring challenge mode and a first look at the PC today. Thank you guys for doing that. This is really cool. This is just a total girl thing. I love. Do you call it a cape? What is he wearing? I love the way it moves. His cloak. Thank you. When he runs.
Well, it's interesting because you really only get that in this this skin as well. He looks, because obviously any sort of third-person action game, you're looking at these guys from behind a lot of the time. So normally Talion, he's pretty tattered and ragged after being sacrificed on top of this tower. So it was actually kind of nice to really get to exploit and take advantage of all our nice cloth tech in
all I've seen is the trailer, what he's wearing in the trailer, and so I'm like, whoa, he looks amazing.
And with how good this looks on the PC, what are the system requirements that people are going to need to be able to do this? Like, I'm just curious.
I'm not the best person to ask that. I know we've obviously got them up on the...
Sure, no worries if not.
But I think, it's certainly going to take advantage of all of the potential, the PC as well, to just look as good as it possibly can.
It looks incredible.
I don't know exactly what MN spec is.
I can't believe how many NPCs are on there at the same time.
Well, and the thing is as well, that creates so many different possibilities for how it can play out, because you can turn those guys to fight for you, or it can become overwhelming fighting against them, and it enables us to make the world feel alive and constantly surprising. Where are we up to? Sorry, I haven't been able to watch what's going on. What's your current tactic?
Currently disrupting an execution.
You haven't got any war chiefs yet?
Not yet.
Okay, how long have we got?
I don't know how much longer we have, but did you, and forgive me if you already talked a lot about this, the Nemesis system, did you talk about how it generates unique enemies?
I guess a little bit, touched on it, but the other thing, basically there's three things that it does. One is that any enemy in the world can get promoted, can become a boss.
Right.
Two, the other one is that they remember. So every time you have an encounter, if they get injured, or they run away, or you run away, or any fight that happens, they remember that. So you actually get to build up a story and build up a kind of personal history. And these guys really turn into your own personal arch enemy. Oh, there's a last chance. And then there's also, because Talion is a wraith, there's also the way that we handle death. So, of course, normally in a game, if you die, we roll back time and you retry the same thing you just did.
Right.
Here, we don't do that. We actually move time forward. So like the ring wraiths when they're killed. And so when you die, time moves forward until you resurrect, but that means the world evolves, because we're simulating this whole orc society. So the guy who killed you, for example, can get promoted. They can start new missions against each other. We can constantly create new side missions in the sandbox. So that combination of time moving forward, them genuinely having memory, and any orc in the world being able to promote really makes it kind of a living world.
Did we already get into specifics of the weapons?
So
I know you touched a little bit on it as we're seeing Ryan use wielding something new. I'm like, ooh, fiery sword! But
and the bow and arrow as well.
Yep.
Yeah, can you walk us through?
Yeah, I think that was another place where our initial inspiration very much came from Lord of the Rings, and the way a lot of these really epic weapons like Glamdring or like Sting or like Aragorn's sword, Anduril, they're named, they're characters in their own right, and they're legendary. So we didn't want to just be swapping out weapons all the time. We wanted you to start with your sword and actually build its legend and kind of have it grow with you until your enemies actually know its name and fear it and so on. And so what we do, you have your sword, you have your dagger, which was initially starts off as your son's broken sword after he's killed, and Celebrimbor's bow. But as you complete weapon quests and go on missions, they get reforged, because Celebrimbor, he was the greatest smith of the Second Age. So all your weapons evolve visually over the course of the game. And then, tied to the Nemesis system, as you're killing all of these named enemies and they're dropping runes, you can take those runes and actually carve them into each of your weapons. So that lets you customize all of their stats and abilities and customize them to your own playing style as well. And then the more side missions you do and currency you gather, the more rune slots you get, so the more runes you can actually place into it.
And so it does have for example, there where he was climbing up the building and kind of did a stealth kill. Like, it's very cool that there's that component as well.
And that's something I think, at Gamescom or at E3 or at PAX or anytime anyone's kind of gotten the chance to play the game, I think that's an area where it really comes through as being very unique in how fluid it is to go between the stealth through to how the ranged works into the melee combat. Because the world's so dynamic and chaotic, it really it's not like, okay, here's a combat encounter, here's a stealth encounter. They're constantly flowing into each other.
Is there a random name generator? Because
Yes.
these names are amazing.
Yep.
I was like, what?
Yeah. So it's not totally random. It's related to their personality and their history and their job and where they come from. So the names and the titles actually give you a clue as to who they are and what their history is. And
that's great. You should
like.
put that online, and then it's like people who look for what would my stripper name be? It's like, what would my Mordor name be?
Yes. My orc stripper name be?
Pushkin of the Welts.
The singer.
King
There you
of
go.
the
That's who
singer,
it would
right?
be. Yep.
There you go.
It's him.
He does look very weirdly Glenn
Musical?
Danzig-y. So he's got the mutton chops.
So there's a match. So this is the war chief. He's come out, and he's also brought all of these bodyguards with him. So you're not actually fighting like just one boss. They're actually kind of en masse, so you can have some pretty intense boss fights.
And not to be the lady that keeps bringing it back to Batman, but it's interesting because you do have that sort of wraith vision that reminds me of kind of detective vision in Batman, where it kind of goes to a more monochromatic view and helps you target.
And of course, very much like when Frodo or Gollum put on the ring, really wanted you to be able to move between those two worlds to kind of see into that wraith world, see your enemies, and use that. And when you're in that world, you're actually seeing Celebrimbor. So basically, each one of these two characters is kind of existing in their own world. This is
because you
so
get
cool.
the sweet elvish headgear.
Yes.
The tiara of the elves.
So you can see Ryan's health's rather low there. Oh, don't forget you got your weapon abilities as well.
Scar artist. That also sounds like a member of
Taurus Scar Artist.
right.
So yeah,
a metal band, nice Swedish metal band.
Well, they actually these guys get scarred as well. So if a guy's been burned and survived, or he's been mauled by one of these monsters and survived, or he's been stabbed in the back by another orc, they'll actually have the scars. So that can be part of what makes them visually like, oh, here we go, first war chief down.
Oh. Was that Pugug the singer?
Oh, goodbye,
That's the
orc
singer.
Glenn Danzig.
He's
that
still
was the
singing
singer.
as his head sails through the air.
So this is amazing. We've been playing this for a while, and we've only taken down the first chief, correct?
Yeah, and as I say, Ryan's the best player on the planet
That's
at this moment in
amazing.
time. Yeah, it's not easy. So, you know, but that we really wanted that. We really wanted a mode that's really going to be able to challenge people with the combat, even if they are very skilled, even if they have beaten the story. So
Maybe we should talk about, even though we're not, just briefly, even though we're not seeing the other modes today, just to the general storyline and gameplay. Can you walk us through that?
yeah, absolutely. So there's the sort of main story of the game and the story missions. It's very much driven around, I mean, like a lot of Christian's other work, the sort of these characters, each character has their own story arc, whether that's Gollum. One of the other characters, I think, you know, we've already revealed, it's a lot of fun, is Ratbag. He's actually an orc, but he's kind of the key to kind of letting you know how orc society works. There's some other new characters. Queen Marwen, she's the one who reveals a lot of the secrets to you about the power of the Wraith and so on. So basically there's all of these different side characters, each with their own story arcs, that are leading to you towards your kind of showdowns with the big bad villains, the Black Captains, who are Sauron's champions and are the guys who murdered you and your family and the other rangers at the start of the game. Then there's a whole range of different side missions and side activities, so rescuing outcasts, weapon quests, so every one of these legendary weapons has its own story that you can go and play these different challenges and discover. Then, because there is so much rich lore, there's also a lot of collectibles and exploration.
Cool.
So discover and to kind of reveal more of the backstory, more of the lore, and how our story really fits into the larger history of Middle-earth. And there's hunting challenges, there's survivalist challenges, and because of the Nemesis system, we're constantly creating new side missions within the world as well. So the power struggles between all of these different orcs. So there's a ton of stuff to do.
I was going to say, when you're talking about, you know, these side quests and the hunting challenges, how linear versus open world is this?
We've really tried to emphasize
the single player, the campaign.
You can pursue even the story missions. You can play most of them in whatever order that you want. Like, you might want to go and pursue all of Gollum's missions and learn more of the origin and the story of Celebrimbor, or you might go and Hergon is this other character and help him liberate the slaves and the outcasts. So basically, you can, even within the story itself, can be non-linear. But then people just get lost for hours and hours and hours just playing around in the sandbox.
That's what I'm
just
talking
playing
about.
with
That's
the Nemesis system.
I love that. I love the idea of the.
It was actually quite hard for us in usability testing for a long time, because we would just get that situation where people would just go in the game and, you know, we'd have a 12-hour usability session and people had gotten to like mission 2. So like, okay, because they just get lost. So, you know, but I think at the end we struck a really nice balance of, as people want to play, they can bounce back and forward between the story and the open world and all the collection and all the other stuff.
Is there, just if you had to sort of sum up how this is different from other action RPGs, what would you say?
I think the big difference is just, probably the single biggest difference is the Nemesis system, is that every single time you play, it's going to be unique to that playthrough. The boss fights that you have are going to be your own unique bosses. The enemies are going to be your own unique enemies. So it's more of like basically a sandbox to let players create their own stories, rather than us as designers or developers telling you this is what you're going to do and this is how you're going to play.
That's exciting. I love the. I'm just watching this and I honestly want to start playing it now.
Yeah.
That is. I want to go to there. I would like to be firing bows and arrows at orcs right now.
You want to be immersed in this world
I know.
immediately.
That's why I feel like I'm really dropping the ball in this interview, because all I want to be doing is playing this. So.
No, it's a beautiful game, and it's mesmerizing. I mean, I've been part of events recently where even just showing the trailer, you know, alone, is like, you know, people are like, whoa, I mean, it's beautiful. People and Lord of the Rings fans are wanting it. It's time for a game that has some girth in this space, you know, to deliver to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, well, you know, that's that 11 days from now that we're so excited that people are going to get to be able to do that and let us know what they think of it and start playing it.
In 11 days, will you be like finally sleeping?
No, in 11 days, I'm going to go in and I'm going to buy my coffee and take it home
They'll
and
comp
unwrap
you
it.
one. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they might do, but I still like to buy it. It's cool. But yeah, I mean that's I think very much how it feels for us as well after 3 years of working on it. Just looking forward to having this game out there and being able to play it.
What's been just a moment for you in designing the game that, you know, looking back after the release happens, after the, you know, all the stuff happens after a game release, like what's looking back just a moment for you that was either just challenging or, you know, just good for you as a designer?
I mean, you know, the thing with a game like this where it's a sandbox and it's so systemic and it's so complicated, so it relies on so many different pieces of the AI and just a ton of animation and the world art. So really we had this, I guess, fairly ambitious idea, but didn't really know how all of that would come together.
Sure.
And then put it all together, and then to not really know, you know, how that would be received or if it would actually work. So I think getting to E3 and having other people play it, and basically Mike Forgy, our exec producer, and Ryan demoed it for 3 days, you know, every 20 minutes, just about back to back for those 3 days, and just that fact that every single time they did it, it was different, and that people responded to it so much, and that they got into it, and that it didn't feel like a system. It didn't feel like, okay, here's a spreadsheet and here's an org chart, but it felt personal and it felt intuitive. Like, I want to kill this guy and he's my enemy and I've got a grudge against him and this guy got promoted, and that whole goal, because the goal of the Nemesis system isn't to innovate or do something innovative for the sake of it. It's to make a game that's more personal and more emotional and gives you this connection to your enemies. So when that actually worked and people responded to that, that was a huge kind of turning point.
Ryan, how many hours have you put in on Mordor?
At least 2,000.
Are you being for real?
Yeah.
2,000 hours. And even playing right now, like, is there anything that feels different to you? Like, every time you play, are you still discovering stuff?
It's always a challenge. It never gets easier.
It never gets easier. Yeah, it looks super intricate, and I can see why Blair wants to jump right in.
Let me ask one more question, if
yeah,
that's cool.
after Blair, we're going to open up Skype.
Perfect.
So Skypers, will you be ready with some awesome Mordor questions? Awesome ones, Kay?
Yes.
Go ahead, Blair.
So here's my super quick question, which is for DLC, Season Pass. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're so pretty excited about that. So it's got includes a whole multiple challenge modes as well. So we've got different tests and different challenge modes, and then there's two big sort of DLC packages, like with story missions.
So it's got some
new
single player in
characters,
there.
a lot of new content, and that's there's a Lord of Beasts, which is really based around some kind of new epic monsters and creatures coming into Mordor and taking them on and using them against Sauron's forces. And then there's the Bright Lord of actually getting to play as Celebrimbor, not just as the Wraith, but as Celebrimbor and facing off against Sauron. So
wow,
they're pretty fun.
That's awesome. I think
Are we ready to open up
think
Skype?
we're ready to open up the Pandora's box that
All right,
is Skype. Hello.
Have you killed a war chief yet? I thought you got one.
Hi,
did
guys.
get one,
How are
yeah.
you doing?
Why is it kill another 5?
Hey, Alex,
Still doing good.
Hey, guys. You guys still awake and hanging in there? You guys have been pulling an all-nighter.
Yeah.
Some of you guys have been here since we started yesterday, so...
I'm the only one left that's here, well, at least for the last 12 hours.
Is
Is
there
it
a lot
really?
of
On
caffeine
Skype here.
coursing through your veins?
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, who wants to... we'll go top middle for your Mordor question. Go ahead.
First of all, I have to say I loved the live action trailer you guys did together with Corridor Digital. That video was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. That was a lot of fun. These guys are great.
As someone who doesn't give in to hype, the hype is real. I guess I want to know, like, how long did it take you to get the system in place where everything is so unique? Because it sounds like a pretty big challenge, and I'm just wondering if how much time did you spend like getting that right, getting the world to feel alive?
So it really was the whole duration of the project. So it really was the 3 years of the project. Kind of, if I was going to break it down very, very roughly, kind of step one was all of the foundations and the underlying systems that would enable us to have all of this content, all of this animation, all of this character art, all of the thousands and thousands of lines of VO and the systems. So the second year was building it all, so that was another big challenge, and then kind of the third year was polishing it and iterating and playtesting. So it really was the whole duration of the project. It was a big focus from day one to try and do that.
I'm glad that there's a year of polish on this, because I don't like buggy games, and I'm glad that like the polish is being put into it.
Yeah, I think you know, the production side, it's always a fight at the end of, you know, some people wanting to close it down and some people wanting to add more stuff, and the producers and those guys were really rigorous and good and about shutting it down, and then only responding to things that were because we were play testing it and because we were in user testing, and really switching the focus to polish, so that it is, I mean, we just has to be like that, because the balancing of something so complex as this system, where we have millions of different possible combinations of enemies, was just a huge job.